Big changes have been happening in the food forest garden, and it wasn't an easy decision. Something that I've been avoiding for months, but one of my fruit trees was under some really big pest pressure, and I made the call to remove it. But don't worry, I have something very exciting to plant in its place. One of the tricky parts about growing food in the suburbs is that the pests don't just stop at the fence line, so I do have to consider other things going on in the neighbourhood that I can't control. But first, let's catch up on some of the things I've been planting in the garden recently. So I cleared a space in here. I removed some of these false cardamom and just chop and dropped them around here to feed the trees, and cleared out the space for this shrub, which is a yellow patanga tuber or yellow star cherry, and that's going to be a really good middle layer of my food forest that I can come out and get some garden snacks from. So as much as this false cardamom has done its job, it's taken up space, it's growing, I don't really use it, so it's nice to start replacing some of that with something that I'm more likely to use. And of course, everything that I cut down or removed goes back into the garden as mulch to feed the plants. So my current mission is to try and get as much of my potted fruit trees out of the nursery and into the garden. I like things in the ground more than in pots. I'm not very good at looking after them, and I don't want to go through another summer with that many to look after. So in here, this space here, I planted a lot of these Queensland arrowroots to act as protection for some of my more delicate plants, but one of them sadly did not make it. The abiu is a pretty sensitive tree, and it has not lasted in that last heat wave, so we're going to take that out. And I have got a bullock's heart custard apple. So this is an Annona reticulata, I think, and it is a seed grown plant, so I don't know what exactly the fruit's going to look like, but I'm hoping that it's going to have a little bit of a pink tinge to it, so we'll see. I was really babying this in a pot, but I think it's going to be happy in here. I'll cut back some of this. It's really sheltered from the wind, and now that the sun has died down a little bit, it won't get so crispy like this poor guy. Not a happy chappy. Look how nice and glossy the leaves are because it's been protected compared to the ones out here that have been copping real life. But the pigeon pea is absolutely thriving, and it's creating such a nice shade in here. It's the thing that has grown the absolute best, and I've just started to prune it back a little bit and chop and drop around the mango to get a little bit more light in for the mango, because now it is really starting to shade it out. All right, firstly let's clear a little bit of space in here to work. I've been trying to leave as many of these in as I could while it was still hot to protect, but now that we, fingers crossed, are a little bit safer, I can remove some of them and we'll use them as chop and drop mulch. So this is easy because the hole is pretty much pre-dug from last time. Very, very dry. Take a few of these off so they don't rub on the new plant, and that can be some mulch. Alright, so this next spot here, it's actually quite spacious compared to some of my other plantings. So today I'm going to pop in a mango. So this is a rare mango. This is the orange sherbet, and this has come from over east and had to go through quarantine to get here. So definitely not cheap, but worth it because I love growing weird and unusual things, and an orange sherbet mango is definitely on the list. So we're going to pop that in here in this gap. This gets hammered by the afternoon sun, so this is a really hot little spot here, so the mango will love it. So just need to get this a good stake and some mulch. So I've got a lychee here that desperately needs to get out of the pot, and I think I'm going to put it here. I'm going to take out these Queensland arrowroot and it's protected from the afternoon sun. In this little spot we've got a moringa which will shoot up and give us nice dappled light for this whole area, because a lot of these are sensitive tropical. So we've got a starfruit, soursop, and let's pop in the lychee. I need to get back my mulch lines from the mess of grass. So I've got a space down here to lay all the mulch, which is in between the trees in the middle, and then my ones I'm planting on the outside so they can break down and feed the soil. It is a little bit disheartening seeing so much grass because it's quite unconventional. It looks a bit weedy and unkept. So it is something that I don't necessarily like, but it's a process and I need to just trust the process and have patience, which is one of the hardest parts about gardening. So just top up this hole with a little bit of good soil. Let's pop this lychee in and then just give it a water. Right, so I'm going to give this pigeon pea a little bit of a prune off, because although this is creating nice dappled shade for the lychee, we get a lot of wind, and so this will just smack it and damage all the new growth. So I'm going to prune this back and chop it up for some mulch down here. I can't believe how fast this grows and how well it grows. It's just starting to flower and put on peas as well. So we're going to be harvesting some of these pigeon peas and making stuff with them. So make sure you're subscribed if you want to see that. This is what I've been waiting for, to be able to chop some of this mulch and drop it. I haven't wanted to touch any of it while we've had the hot weather, and it's looking pretty ratty. Some of these Queensland arrowroots really needed to be cut down. They don't last forever and they just flop over like this one. Give some to the starfruit. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you may have already guessed it. It is the lemon tree that has been removed. The good thing about this lemon tree was that it was a Eureka lemon, so it produced lemons throughout the whole year, which was nice. I do have a lot of fruit trees in my garden, so I just can't have one that's constantly requiring maintenance and I don't get a lot of crops out of it. So over the last few years, the citrus gwasp has become worse and worse in the suburbs where I live, and I'm just having to cut my tree back completely, you know, every year, multiple times a year, and so that doesn't give it time to produce fruit. So I'm really not getting that much from it. And out of all my citrus trees, the lemon was getting hit the hardest. So I have got a small lemon tree, a dwarf one in a pot. I also have an established lime tree out the front that doesn't get hit as bad. So I'm still going to have plenty of different citrus, but sadly my big lemon tree is no more. And please don't freak out and think that you need to remove your tree if you're getting hit with the gwasp. You can maintain them, keep them well pruned. But I have a lot of fruit trees and not a lot of space, and so I want my trees to be working with my food forest and not against it. Gwasp lay their eggs inside the stem, and as it grows it turns into this lump on the tree, and then eventually they will burst out of there and reinfect other trees. So it's important to dispose of them correctly, and that's why it's hard to keep it contained if your neighbours aren't doing that. But it can also be really hard to see all of them and get all of them on a bigger tree. Because I had a lot of them on this tree, I decided to run them through my mulcher, and then as extra precaution, I'm putting them in a bucket of water with the lid on and letting it rot down and turn into fertilizer before putting it on the garden. You can also solarize them in bags or in the fire, but it's important not to put them straight in the green waste, in compost, or just in the garden. And hopefully these lucky last lemons will ripen up nicely on the bench. And of course, I love me some Feijoa garden snacks. But what I have planted in its place is very exciting. This is something that you can't really buy at the shops, and that is a giant avocado. So I've got a few different avocado varieties, and this one produces like massive avocados. So it's something unique. It's going to be a little bit of a novelty thing. We'll see how that goes. And it's also one of my most mature trees that I had potted. So I wanted to find something that was going to grow and take up the space pretty quickly and not just put in a little tree. And I already had this in my collection that I didn't have any space for it in the garden. By removing my big lemon tree, I've now freed up that space, and hopefully it likes its new spot. The good thing about this area is that it is a little bit more protected because it is sandwiched in between my two Feijoas, so it's not getting as much wind and heat from the hot summer sun. Our gardens go through a whole lot of different phases, and mine at the moment seems to be at more of an edit phase, where things that I've planted, 10 years ago, I'm now going through and editing those and deciding whether they still work for my garden or if there's other things that would do better. And that's all part of creating a resilient food forest system. So don't stress if you're not at that stage yet and you're still starting from scratch, where any plant in the ground is a bonus. And I am still planting things. It's always a work in progress, but I'll be sure to keep you updated on the new addition, and who knows, we may even get some flowers from it this year.